opportunities so far today.
We're talking transfer rumours early on. One that's doing the rounds in the Belgian press is Philippe Gilbert to Ethics Quickstep next year for the cobbled classics. Wait to see how that develops. 19 kilometres to go. There is San Sebastian in all of its glory. Playa de la Concha, its most famous beach on the top left-hand side, just out of shot now. And this big wide boulevard, it's quite a well-to-do place in the summer, is San Sebastian. A lot of people from Madrid coming up here, who've got relations up here. And of course the rest of the Basque Country. In the meantime, much of the Basque Country moves to Santander for their summer homes. Those in San Sebastian, as we've demonstrated today, have beautiful roads to ride on. And some quite tough climbs. One which we're going to take on for the first time in this race, the Murgil, straight after we come over the finish line. Murky day. There is Donostia, San Sebastian. .5 Ks. Remember, Adam Yates, defending champion. Lots of big names here, just to run through some of them. Dan Martins here, Richie Port, Alberto Contador, Mikel Landa, who's already been on the attack, Alejandro Valverde, Bauke Mollema, who was up there in the Tour de France too, Jean-Christophe Perrault's here, Alinson Pantano, stage winner, Hugh Carthy, remember, for British interest too, Tony Galopin, a former winner, Rigoberto Urán, Warren Barguil as well. There is no shortage of big names today. And there's Richie Port, left-hand side, making his way to the front. Philippe Gilbert behind him in that Belgian national champions jersey as Luke Durbridge makes it onto the front now. Chris Juul Jensen just behind him. Roman Kreuziger, the former winners there as well. Hugh Carthy on the left-hand side, well spotted Dan Lloyd, who points in the direction of the wiry climber from Lancashire.
Well, we haven't seen him so far today, have we? I was just looking through that shot over the top of the peloton there to see if I could spot him. A number of his teammates towards the back, and he pretty much the last rider through there. But it's Orica Bike Exchange and BMC who are really upping the pace now, with 17.5 Ks to go, amassing all their riders towards the front. Maybe start taking a little bit more of a back seat, and Lotto Soudal still anonymous. I'm sure we're going to see them on the last climb, but they've certainly been cagey so far today.
Well, it's busy down on the beach. I think a lot of those people will be making their way onto the roads as we go up for the final lap. You could hear the bell ringing. Across the finish line, 17 kilometres to go, and as of yet, unknown, untested roads. .9 kilometres. Well, the rest of the caravan making its way through. It's the racing we want to see on the roads. There's BMC taking it up. Alessandro De Marchi did quite a bit of work as we came through to the line there, and it's the likes of De Marchi, Durbridge, Juul Jensen, those riders who aren't going to be in the mix when we get to the climb, who are going to be used and wasted, if you like, for want of a better expression, before we get to the bottom of that climb.
Yeah, we've already seen Chiruka burn all of his matches for the day, haven't we? I'm sure he'll be taking an early shower in the Orica Bike Exchange bus as they come through the finish line here this time. But he's left the Yates twins and the other big name riders at that team in the capable hands, as you said, of Durbridge, who's really coming on as a rider, isn't he? He's a very, very strong guy. Came on the scene really as more of a time trialist at the very beginning, but he's certainly improved in the climbs over recent years, and he'll be a very well-used domestique, I think, for that team as they move forward with their general classification ambitions. Not seen Daryl Impey so far on today's race, not to say that he's not still in that bunch, just haven't managed to spot him that much so far in the race.
It was a week ago today that the South African was so good on that final climb on the Jouplan, leading them up before Geraint Thomas took over for the second half of it. It was an exceptional ride from Daryl Impey. There's Jonas Aguirre riding on home roads, went away to take the stage win ahead of Vincenzo Nibali and Alinson Pantano.
The pace is really increasing now, isn't it, as they come into the last 15 Ks of the race. There'll be upwards of 55 Ks per hour, I'd imagine, at this particular point in time. So everyone trying to position themselves as best they can. Bike Exchange still riding on the front, but we've seen the likes of Lotto NL Jumbo also trying to get there team leaders up towards the front. They'll be working for Kreisweit. Possibly George Bennett might be up there today. Mattiglim we've already seen in the bunch, and also Wilco Kelderman. Had a slightly disappointing Tour de France, I think, by some
he was put in the time trials as well, wasn't he, where you expected him to be good.
And Cannondale, they've been riding a good race so far today, Cannondale. As you said, Rob, they haven't had the best of seasons so far. Certainly a fairly disastrous Tour de France by their standards in the end. And they've clearly got a plan today, and Rigoberto Urán must be feeling good.
Last 15 kilometres of what is winding roads, undulating terrain, typical big attacks in the finale. Are we going to get them? It's been rather controlled and, dare I say, a little bit more boring than usual today. It's usually one of the most exciting races on the calendar.
I think sometimes when you introduce a new climb, or there's so much speculation about how hard it is, it almost frightens the riders and makes them not want to attack too early, because of course in the past, when they didn't have such a hard finale, we saw the attacks from the climbers coming much further out. So it's one of those things in cycling, isn't it? If you make things too hard, it can sometimes make the riders a little bit more defensive until the very final moment. And that seems to be what we're going to see today. But there'll no doubt be quite a few fireworks going up this final climb of the day. The likes of Rodriguez will need to get rid of as many people as possible on that final climb, and particularly his arch rival Alejandro Valverde, who's of course very fast in a sprint at the end.
3-4 kilometres to go until we start the first couple of kilometres of this climb, which is falls flat more than anything, and then you hit the wall. 20% gradients, a little bit period where you can rest, and then it ramps up once more to the top. .5 kilometres to go, a big peloton still left on Clasica San Sebastian 2016. Movistar at the front, Orica Bike Exchange alongside them, BMC have been interested as well, and Cannondale riding for Rigoberto Urán, looking to have his top form as we go to the Olympic Games, with bodies there as well. Remember, they too have Tom Jelte-Slagter as well, who rode the Tour de France. Amazing to see so many riders still in the main group at this late stage of the race.
Yeah, positioning is going to be very, very important for this final climb. As I said, it's a very narrow entry into it, and pretty much narrow all the way up as well. So if you start at the back of the peloton, as you said, there's quite a few people still remaining here, around about 80 guys or so, so you can't afford to start it too far back. If you've got any ambitions to win this race today, I'd say that you have to head into the climb in at least the top 25.
Well, this climb, the Murhill, officially 1.8 kilometres long at 11%, but there's 4 or 5 kilometre stretch of road that people are talking about, the narrow road that leads into it, the false flat as well. There's one particularly tight hairpin towards the top. Lots of rhythm changes, uneven ramps, constantly changing. Certainly not one for a consistent effort while looking down at the power meter. Maximum gradient of 22%. That's where we're going. And the fight for that corner, that left-hand turn, is going to be big here. Couple of sections like that. You can see it's all strung out in one run. Movistar and Orica Bike Exchange who've been up there. It is Orica Bike Exchange who put their riders in the right place at the right time. So they've obviously done their recon well enough here. Already winners with Simon Yates in Ordizia a few days ago. Remember, there's the race in Getxo tomorrow too. It looks as though they're setting a really strong pace here.
It looks like Jules Jensen, I think, still riding on the front at the moment. He's obviously come out of the Tour de France with some pretty good form. He's leading his team leaders to the foot of this final climb of the day, and a great job he's done of that too. Looks like the Yates twins are in 3rd and 4th place, are they?
Sitting there looking very, very good. In the meantime, this is that 1-2 kilometre section of almost false flat climbing that we talked about. This isn't the climb proper just yet, but you can see those windy roads, much of it hidden by forest. Tops out with 7.9 kilometres to go. Then we've got a brief descent, and the last 3 kilometres roughly on the flat. And look at that. On this graphic, they're talking of a 25% maximum.
Bigging it up.
It's hard, whatever the numbers. Katusha well placed. They're in the red jerseys just behind, but it's the Australian team with the British leader. British leaders, we should say, maybe, Adam and Simon Yates. Adam Yates weighing one.
The pressure that the Orica Bike Exchange team have put on the front leading into this climb has caused some splits further back. I'm sure the guys at the back of the peloton weren't expecting it to split before the actual climb itself, but that's why positioning is so crucial. If a team does go to the front and really drills at a very high speed, then on these narrow roads it can be very, very hard indeed at the back. And Jensen doing an absolutely stupendous job there at the front for his teammates, and finally he pulls over. Job done for him for the day.
Impey takes over. 10.8 kilometres to go. Dan Martin well placed there, you can see in about 10th position. It's the national jersey 2 of Nicholas Roach, not far away. A little further down. Irish national champion. We are heading to the start proper of the climb. Impey with the man to do the job. EMC a little further back. Just wondering where Greg van Avermaet is here. Of course, remember, if you're looking for Philippe Gilbert, he's the national champion of Belgium again. It's what they call the Drie Kleur, the Belgian tricolour, on his back.
Well, if Jules Jensen's effort didn't put the hurt on a few riders, then I'm sure that Daryl Impey's will. We saw just how well he was going throughout the entire Tour de France. He was climbing better than he's ever been. Good lead-out rider as well. He's the man that can do almost anything, and once he gets on the front in a race like today, the pace is really going to get very, very high indeed. So they're pretty much coming on to the main part of the climb now. As you said, Rob, it peaks with 7.9 kilometres to go, officially 1.8 kilometres long, so a couple of 100 metres, and we'll be into the meat of it.
A couple of changes in road surface as well. Highlighted, the first bit was on cement there. This is all new paved road as well. And we wondered how many people would fit on the road. The graffiti artists have already been up here, and look at it ramping up already. 15% there. Graffiti artists, supporters of Kenny Elisson, the pint-sized French climber. And this is where it's really hard. Impey's done his turn. I think that's Simon Yates now.
I think that might have been Albacini actually who was taking over there at the front in terms of the pace setting. So presumably just one of the Yates twins is up there in second place at the moment. Not sure where the other one is, and we'll have to get a closer look to see exactly what this order. It looks like Albacini's star on the front. A couple of riders from Cannondale in third and fourth. Trying to find where Rodriguez is. He's down there in fifth, and then Valverde, of course, very well placed in around about seventh. Tim Whelan's there as well, so all the big names that we talked about are coming to the fore just at the right time.
Roach and Martin, the two Irishmen there as well. Left hand side you can just see Bauke Mollema too. Kruiswijk not far away. And Luis Leon Sanchez in about 15th position in the light blue. Pantano on his wheel. Roman Kreuziger in about 20th position, the Czech national champion. Battle of attrition, 9.4 k's to go. Again, of course, because of the motorbike incident last year, it's no surprise that we're having to hover in. That's Simon Yates' second wheel, as it's Rigoberto Urán who launches the first serious attack. So Urán is attacking, and Simon Yates follows.
Wow, that looked easy the way Simon went across to Rigoberto then, didn't it? Not going to be able to leave their moves too long, the pure climbers on this race, because after the top of the climb here, it's pretty much descent until 3 k's to go. So if you want to win this race as a pure climber, you're going to need to make your effort pretty quickly now.
9.2 k's. Still a big hairpin to the left-hand side coming up.
Looks like Greg van Avermaet about to come towards the front, but Simon Yates now putting the pressure on at the front, and he's got a clear gap already. He's floating away from the rest of the field right now.
So a big dig put in by Simon Yates, victorious for the first time in his professional career after coming back for that 4-month suspension just the other day. And Purito Rodriguez tried to rebound. Valverde not too far behind as well. And look at this. This is so steep. And remember, this comes after 210 kilometres of racing already. Joaquim Rodriguez. It says Adam Yates. Have to take a rain jack. I'm pretty sure I saw number 8 on that bike when it went across before, but we'll see. Yes, they do have the same style. Adam Yates, of course, the defending champion. And again, the passion on the side of the road. in full evidence. A look around from Rodriguez. Yates behind. Takes quick step trying to make their move as well. And the peloton being blown apart. Joaquim Rodriguez, who has never won this race, he's come back, I think it's the 12th attempt, a 12th and final attempt, and he's pulling away.
Yeah, metre by metre, Rodriguez is starting to put a gap into Yates just behind, and then group behind that, I think it was Brambilla from Ethics Quickstep. No sign of Dan Martin just at this point in time. Maybe not on best day, the Irishman. We've also got Valverde leading the chase group behind, which is whittled down to 6 or 7 riders. No more Cannondale riders there. Oh, there is one there at the back. Is that Davide Formolo, I think?
It is the small, wiry frame of Davide Formolo. Meantime, Joaquim Purito Rodriguez, the Catalan rider from Katusha, riding at his final season. 12th attempt to try and win this race. He's been second before in 2005. He's been third twice, 2011, 2014. Is this his moment? He's being chased down though. And behind, they look to be gaining on him. 8.5 Ks to go. He is less than a kilometre from the top of this climb now. Those hard ramps, 22% up here.
Yeah, if the graphic's right there, we've still got a few hundred metres still to go before we get to the top. It's Bauke Mollema of Team Trek Segafredo who's actually doing the work in the group behind, gradually making his way across to Joaquim Rodriguez, but unfortunately for everyone else, Alejandro Valverde is also there, and it looks like Tony Gallopin's also made this move. 4 riders now drawing clear at the front of this race.
And all 4 riders coming out of the Tour de France with 3 weeks of hard racing in their legs. There is that big left-hand hairpin. They're almost at the top of the road now. Joaquim Rodriguez about to be caught. Mollema in the white and black, the Dutchman riding for the United States team. There's Brambilla swinging from left to right. Nicholas Roach as well for Team Sky there, the Irish champion. It isn't, in fact, Tony Gallopin there at the top. So, over the top of the final climb of the day. And the descent is approaching. One big favourite from that particular group, but it might not be the end of it as far as those guys are concerned. Well, there's a Yates there in the chase group.
Well, it looks like Bauke Mollema has decided that he wants to try and press on. Of course, of all of these riders, he's probably got the slowest sprint when it comes to the final couple of 100 metres, so he decided to press on here. Obviously not noted for his descending skills either, as we saw in the Tour de France, and unkindly almost his sports director made that plain in the press the following day after he lost all hope of finishing on the podium. But if those 3 behind start to look at each other too long, we might find that Bauke Mollema has got a gap that's too big to close. Still 7.7 Ks to go though.
Bauke Mollema's just lacking a couple of big victories in his career. He's got a lot of very good placements on general classification. I think he's only had 6 wins in his career. Not too many particularly prestigious ones, but he's always been there or thereabouts. 5 seconds now for Mollema. Rodriguez looking around at Valverde. Where have we seen this before? World Championships on numerous occasions.
Yeah, there's a big history between those 2 Spanish riders, isn't there? And you have to understand Rodriguez not really wanting to take Valverde towards the line. Valverde will be the rider that's going to be asked to do a little bit more of the work, a little bit like a Pete Sagan situation really, when Sagan finds himself in a group of climbers. None of them want to really work with him because they know that he's going to beat them in a sprint to the line. Valverde not quite as fast, of course, as Sagan at the finish, especially these days, but of these 4 you'd have to say he would be favourite if they came together, although Gallopin as well, pretty quick in a finish.
Mollema with less than 7 kilometres to go, away on his own. 8 seconds, 9 seconds now as an advantage. Remember, 3 years since the most prestigious win of his career, stage 17 of the Vuelta a España. It was won not too far away from here. It was in the north of Spain, in Burgos. On the day, beat Edvald Boasson-Hagen and Max Richese to the victory. Chase on with Brambilla. Yates is there as well. And this is Mollema. Trying to get as aero as possible, pedalling for dear life. All of that 3-week effort. Heartbreak for him as he fell quite sharply down the standings and off the podium with 2 stages to go in the Tour de France. This could be some sort of compensation for that.
Yeah, it won't completely make up for the disappointment there, will it? But if he did take today's win, it would be one of the biggest wins in his career. As you rightly point out, Rob, he's an incredibly consistent rider in the Grand Tours, and other races too, but he hasn't had too many notable big victories to his name, and this would be definitely one of them if he managed to cling on. 10 seconds the gap, it's gradually going up. 12 seconds is what we are being told now, and the chase behind is not that concerted at the moment.
Well, Tony Galopin, the French rider in the red and black, racing for the Belgian team Lotto Soudal in the middle with the big green M on his back. It's Movistar's Alejandro Valverde, the Spaniard, and his compatriot just behind Joaquim Rodriguez. 5 kilometers to go to the line then for Bauke Mollema. Again, just doesn't get that line completely right as he goes round that corner.
He's got about 2 kilometres now of descending before they'll come back down to roughly sea level, and it's pretty flat all the way to the finish line there. They'll know the final few kilometres, of course, of having already done it earlier on in the race today. But he's doing very, very well, Bauke Mollema. 10 seconds. He's holding that gap on a descent, which is not his strong point. And he just needs them to look around at each other a couple more times once they get down to the flat, and this one could be in the bag for the Dutchman.
So, selection made on the climb, being gained upon on the descent. Still 4.5 kilometres to ride though for Bauke Mollema. 10 seconds is the advantage. Again, tries to get as aero as possible. If you have a nervous disposition, look away now with him leaning over that top tube and all the potholes you can see on the descent there. Dutch cycling has had so many near misses this year. Giro d'Italia with Kruiswijk. Tour de France with this man. Needs a big win. Hasn't won a World Tour race since that Welter stage either. His only other World Tour victory was a stage of the Tour of Poland the year before that. Back in the days when he was at Rabobank. Now riding for Trek Segafredo, and if Alberto Contador is indeed on the way to join the team, then he could be bumped down in the pecking order in terms of leadership. Time to get the wins in the bag and the status moving up. So the descending is done. 3.5 kilometres. 3Ks to go, in fact, now for Bauke Mollema. Just goes under the kite. 6 seconds though, and they're gaining on him. 4 seconds. Dan Lloyd's the man with the real timing equipment alongside me. He says the race organisers have it wrong. Just 4 seconds when they went through that band. Yeah,
3 kilometres to go. I started the clock when Mollema went, so they'll very much have him in their sights right now. And you can see the 3 riders, he's just hovering in front there. They need to fully commit now if they want to bring him back, though.
Well, look around there from Alejandro Valverde, looking to equal that record of 3 wins set by Marino Lejarreta, and he's making his move. Two and a half kilometres to go. Alejandro Valverde just pushing on at the front. He knows that history could be in the making here. Bauke Mollema still with just a few seconds of a gap. 4 at the last count. It says 11 now.
Yeah, I think they hesitated, didn't they? They just came down that descent faster than Bauke Mollema was able to do so, and closed it to 4 or 5 seconds with 3Ks to go. But just after that, they started to look at each other, and that's allowed the Dutchman to increase his advantage once again. Rodriguez just sat on the back, he refusing to work with his 2 companions there at this point in time. They're probably getting slightly frustrated at that.
Well, of course, you might be joining us for the first time watching this type of race. Joaquim Rodriguez has nowhere near as much punch in his sprint as Alejandro Valverde and Tony Galopin. It's logical that he should make them do more work here to have any sort of chance to the line. Galopin looks around again, remember, a former winner. Alejandro Valverde having won it twice. Rodriguez has never won this race and is about to retire from the sport. This is Bauke Mollema, the Dutchman. Radio hanging out. Jersey unzipped. Doesn't want to listen to anything else. This is his race, and he's going to do it his own way. There's no shortage of encouragement, as you can see. 1.5 Ks now, and it's still Galopin who's riding. Galopin might have done a bit much if this does come back together.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's going to at the moment. It's not a pretty style, is it, from Bauke Mollema, but it certainly seems to be quite effective for him today, as it was during most of the Tour de France as well. 13 seconds now are being shown as the gap between this man and those 3 riders behind, who will surely be joined by a few more riders if they continue to slow up. It looks to me like this Trek Segafredo rider has got this.
Well, 9 years as a professional now. He's just completed his 10th Grand Tour, finished 11th in the Tour de France. And Bauke Mollema almost ready to turn 30 years of age. He's looking for the biggest one-day win in his career. about to hit the seafront. Big left turn here. Has he done enough? Some of the crowd certainly think so. He has the finish line in sight. 5.5 hours again. Such tough racing. Trying to get any sort of advantage he can off that motorbike into the finale. They can't see him behind. Surely this is his race now.
Yeah, this is now a sealed deal, I think, as far as Bauke Mollema is concerned. What a win for him. He just went over the top of that climb on the false flat, which came immediately afterwards. And I think the two riders just behind looking at each other, Galopin and Valverde Rodriguez, already refusing to do any work on the front. And it allowed this man a very small advantage. He increased it over the top.
So here it is, Trek Segafredo to get the win. So much disappointment at the Tour de France for Bauke Mollema. From 2nd to 11th in the space of just one crash. Here though, he's over the line first. And the winner of the 36th Clasica San Sebastian is Bauke Mollema. Chasing group finally gets itself a bit more organised. Purito Rodriguez not going to sprint for the podium. It's going to be Galopin in 2nd place and Alejandro Valverde with yet another podium on the Clasica San Sebastian. A 4th place and a wave finally to the crowd. It's a race he'll never win now, Purito Rodriguez. A 4th place finish. A very good ride from him in the meantime. Behind, we're seeing the sprint for the place is led out by BMC.
Van Avermaet there ahead of Brambila of Essex Quickstep. I think Dries Devenins did manage to get himself just inside the top 10, the I Am Cycling rider who we talked about earlier. But today was all about this man. He needs to win on his own, and that's exactly what he managed to do today. Hats off to Bauke Mollema.
7th win of his career, the first since the Japan Cup. A big one, and just deserts for a very well put together summer that was wrecked cruelly by a crash at the end of the Tour de France. So Mollema over the line. A much better, happier story than this time last week. Arriving in Morzine in the rain after the day before having struggled. There's Jaime Zubeldia, home Basque rider. Part of his work today has helped to set up his teammate. And there will be a big Basque party, I think, for the Trek Segafredo team. So Mollema the victor. Congratulations and applause. Trek Segafredo taking a huge victory on the World Tour. It might be a murky day, but it's been a sunshine good news story for Bauke Mollema and Trek Segafredo. And finally, Dutch cycling. In the meantime, Joaquim Rodriguez rides off into the sunset as far as this race is concerned. 12 appearances, many podium and top 10 finishes. No win though for the Catalan climber. He's off to the Olympic Games. Going to be hoping to end at least on the podium with a medal in 7 days' time. The former winner Kreuziger, it was a hard day with no reward. The winner though is Bauke Mollema of Trek Segafredo.